Shalom Bena, welcome to another series in this YouTube channel. I'm going to show you guys everything about my workshop, my tools, what to buy, what not to buy. So if you've got some spare money and you think like I want to get into like car building or whatever fabrication stuff, and you're not sure where to start or where to spend your money on next, I'll try to help you out with some with some information about my stuff, what I bought over the years, and especially what I learned over the years, which tools are good, which tools are worth spending money on, which tools I actually use a lot, which tools I thought would use a lot, but I don't after all. So this will be a 5-part series. First, car/basic tools. I work mostly on cars, so most of the tools I have are also the basic tools are bought, like considered with cars in mind, but also very basic tools for fabrication and stuff. Second video will be power tools, so battery power tools and maybe some corded tools, but battery powered is the way to go if you ask me. Third one will be chip making, drills, tabs, dies, you name it. And the number 4 will be machines, and the last one will be welding, which is a very separate thing I wanted to dedicate a full video to. So let's get started. First, the Benchvise. I'm going to take, I have a new machine which kind of nicely follows me around. And it's a gimbal DJI thingy, whatever. But yeah, so this is my trustworthy Hoyer bankschroef. My Benchvise. It is from, we estimated, we and the manufacturer, I sent them some messages a while ago, we estimated that this thing originated in 1918, so it's more than 100 years old. I refurbished it a while ago, mostly paint and trying to get a little bit of the slack out of the moving jaw. But it doesn't matter, old is good mostly in Benchvises. This one is 125 mil wide, which is a very decent size. So there's bigger ones or smaller ones, but this is the perfect size for a smaller workshop if you don't have to do like very heavy stuff, just like work holding and some bending of stuff, whatever. This is the way to go. Not too big, not too small. The nice thing about this one is that the rear jaw is the one that moves. So if I turn the handle, it moves the back part. So it never sticks out further or less than it does now. My advice, go on Marketplace or whatever, find a decent branded vise. See if the jaws close nicely and if it's good, and go with that to start with. You can always invest, like a proper Benchvise this size from Hoyer is about 300 euros, which is quite expensive. I bought this one 10 euros and an afternoon of work, so that's a good investment if you ask me. Next up is the work table. It is a this one's homemade. It's just simple legs with a 15 mil thick plate, solid steel, obviously, with some holes drilled in for welding purposes. To be honest, I've never really used that, so most of the welding I do is in the vise or whatever. But it's like a proper welding table setup for my needs, not necessary at all. So I would advise, get yourself a nice flat slab of steel from like a local supplier. 10 mil would be fine enough. You can hammer on this day in, day out, no sweat. Gets rusty sometimes, but you just take your belt grinder or angle grinder or whatever and just make it shiny again, and then you can continue. So proper table, doesn't have to be expensive. This setup was like, for the 50 mil 50 by 50 And the slab, all in all, I paid maybe 250 euros, which is not expensive at all. It's not as nice as a proper welding table setup, but it works very well. It's just for assembling parts, doing some fabrication, this is more than enough. So no need to spend thousands of euros on a proper welding table and then use it as a work table. If you're aiming to go into like welding and building frames for furniture or whatever, then you need a proper welding table. But for like building car parts and stuff, this is more than plenty. This is more than enough. So next up, pliers. They might not be the first thing that comes in mind when you think about a workshop building cars and stuff, but pliers are quite important. I have a few pliers from Knipex and a few from Guédor. They are both, just get decent branded. These don't get the Chinese stuff or the from the local building markets bullshit. Invest a few euros in a proper pliers. So I don't know the English word for this one. Combination pliers, I think might be. But this one, 180mm, number 03 Knipex, very nice one to have. Just mainly to hold stuff, like if you welded something hot or whatever, or just to break things or whatever. This one's also very important to have. Side cutters, I think they are in English. Also 180mm, decent size, not too big, not too small. Bigger is not always better. This one's also very nice. Also from Knipex, and it's a I don't know the name. I'll put the name here below. I'll just Google it when I'm editing this video. But this one's adjustable, quite fine adjustable, and that's very nice to have. Also, it's self-locking, so it locks itself when you like actually properly put some force on it. So this one's nice. So these are the three, and the last one is a I think it's called needle nose plier. Kind of the same as this one, but just with a very long and thin. Never use this to like put force on anything, because then it will just bend and possibly break. But this is really handy to have if you're in tight spaces trying to reach for something, or just even with electrical work or whatever. So these are the 4 pliers that I think. There's many more in my workshop. Self-locking, you name it and I've got it. But these ones are like this. These are the 4 that I actually use very often. So first investment this, and I think these 4 pliers together might be worth, I think maybe 20-30 euros each. So let's say under 100 euros you should be able to get a kit 4 of these. Often if you buy them in like in a kit that has like multiple kinds of, and they are a little bit cheaper, but this is a very good investment. So pliers. More basic tools. So yeah, I think it goes without saying that some good screwdrivers are very important to have. My screwdrivers are branded, Vacom branded, which is my brand of preference. Doesn't have to be very expensive, but invest also with this. Like the very basic tools are also the ones that are most important and should have a long lifespan. So for me, the most important parts, like if I chip at the end, I can just go to a Vacom dealer and get a new one for free. It's lifelong warranty, and now I'm doing an ad for Vacom. I shouldn't do that. So get whatever brand you want, but I prefer this because of the reason I just mentioned. Flathead, 2 different sizes. Big one for, well, you shouldn't use it to pry, but as we all do, I do it too. Phillips head, also very important, especially when working on cars. Then we have an Allen keys. I have these T-shaped. Well, it's a kind of a weird T. It's more like an L, I think, like this or this. But they have different sizes, 3, 4, 5, 6. I hardly ever use the 7 or 8, but the 4, 5, and 6 are the ones that I often use for M6, 8, and 10. And then also we've got these Torx wrenches, same wrench, also from Wacom, but they are a little bit different. They have this star-shaped end. They are not really super common, but as I know that most of my viewers are Volvo people, Volvo really likes to use them a lot on their cars. So this is also very useful stuff. And I think this is also a set from T10 to the T40. The T20, 25, and T30 are the ones that you use the most. And I can't really remember the prices. I'll put the prices here on the screen now, here in this box, for the complete set. So Allen keys, Torx keys, flatheads, Phillips screwdrivers. I also have different screwdrivers. These are for electrics with the insulated shafts. But those are not really necessary. So I wouldn't call that basic tools. But flathead, Phillips, Allen keys, and Torx, these are the most important screwdrivers you can have and should have. I think these might be actually the very first thing you buy before a table or whatever. Okay, next up, the open-ended wrenches. Not sure. Google said me that it was called like this in English, but open-ended wrench. So this end is open, this one end is closed. But these are, I think, the most common kinds of wrenches you could find. To be honest, mine are not an expensive brand. They are like unbranded. It just says CRV. I think that's the metal, kind of metal. But these are not super important. But you do want to have a good A set. Most sizes I use are 10, 11, 12, well not 11, 10, 11, 10, 12, 13, 14, 17, 19, and sometimes 22. 22 is mostly used on the machines, not in cars. But from 10 till 19 are the most important sizes in cars. Get yourself a set. It can be Biltema or just a Chinese brand, doesn't matter. It's mostly with the... So I would suggest to buy a good set of these kind of wrenches. They look a little bit similar to the one I just had in my hand, but this side's different. This side is ratcheting, so you can, especially in tight places. Back in the days, like 10 years ago, when I had or 15 years ago, when I had a Subaru Impreza side, there were some tight spots as you get on Japanese cars. This is really nice. So the ratcheting thing is a very shallow angle, so you can, takes a while, but at least it's better than not being able to get a bolt out. So this one's Wacom for me. I'll put a link down with or link and the name down in the screen with the part number and the price. I think it was just over 100 euros, maybe 150 now with inflation and everything. But it comes in this really handy storage thing. It just slides over. I've got a bolt into my wall where I slide it over, and just it's easy to store. And this is, I keep saying this to many people, this is the best tool I ever bought. And I consider it basic tools, since it's very often used. And the reason why I mentioned like this can be the normal ones can be very cheap, is that you often use, especially in cars, you often have one bolt and a counter nut on one side. So this one I often use not to like actually wrench down things, but just to secure a nut on one side, and then use this one on the ratcheting on the nut side or the bolt side or whatever on the other side. So this one stays stationary. It's just to hold the counterpart, and I can just easily work. But this is actually a lifesaver. Like if I work on my cars, the first thing I get is some power tools, some basic tools, but always this set. So this one is And I know there are some people like Master Milo or whatever, they are like, man, I don't really like. I have no idea why. Maybe it's also a matter of application. So if you always work on things where there's enough space or whatever, and you can put this kinds of wrenches on, then it's no problem. But with on cars, in my case, I bought it like, I think like at least 15, maybe 20 years ago, and it's still working. I only replaced 110, since the 10 is the one that you always lose, and 112, and I'm not sure if I lost it or I broke it, but I know you should never do it, but especially with this one, the 19, I've been using the ratcheting side on bolts that I couldn't get loose, and then I used, with no kidding, I used this hammer on this side just to get it to break loose, and no problem. It just keeps working. I've been amazed on how much this can take. So it's never. Never. It's not going to break. And if it breaks, again, lifetime warranty. Just go to the dealer, swap it around. Everybody happy. So really, this is the best investment. I actually tried to sell this. No sponsorship, but this is just great stuff. And now it's starting to rain, and I'm in a metal box, so I'm going to pause right now and come back later for to continue this list. I hope you like it. It won't stop raining. Welcome in Swedish summers. I decided to just go on recording, close the doors. Hopefully the sound of the rain's not too bad. But let's continue, not dwell too much. Hammers. Sounds weird, but I should mention I just used two. A small one, which I literally use for everything. It's old, it's battered. I think it's 200 grams or whatever. It's a small one, very useful just to do small things, I guess. Not everything has to be big hits. And the big one for the big hits. That's no idea how you call this style hammer in English, but this is 1,000 grams, so 1 kilo's hammer. Useful for everything. And then there is one other style. I couldn't find it this quickly. Oh, it's here. It's just here. This one. This is a half kilo, I think. And it's a Dablo hammer. Rubber hammer. So you can hit some stuff really hard without damaging it too much. So that's... And they're all quite cheap. This one I got from my dad. This one too, so I have no idea what they cost, but they shouldn't be very expensive. Next thing on the list, files. Doesn't come to mind as a first thing for a basic tool, but you should learn to use them, and you should use them a lot, since they are really basic tools that you should use often. I have a collection, round, square, triangular, but just the regular flat ones are good to have. And I also use the half round version quite much for inside tubes like this. You can nicely deburr things, even plastics. That's the files. Let's get on to measuring stuff. Steel rulers are very important. I use them a lot. I have very many different sizes and dimensions. I even have a 1 meter long version somewhere laying around. They are quite nice since they are sturdy and they don't deflect or change dimensions a lot. Obviously tape ruler, €5 thingy. These are also like 1, 2, 3 euros at like Biltema or whatever. They are cheap and easy. This one though is a little bit more expensive. I was doubting a little bit to put it in like the machine episode, but I think it's so important to have, so that it is actually like I consider this as a basic tool. They cost, this one's from Bututio, ABS 150 if I'm not mistaken, yeah, 150 millimeters, and they are quite expensive. They are like depending on where you are, like between 100 and 150 euros. The digital calipers, so they display the thing you measure in a digital display, which is very nice and very accurate. And I actually have two, one for that side of the. And even though my workshop is like super small, I have one for over there and one for over here, and I use them for literally anything. Like just quickly gauging which size bolt you have, if you can't already see, or like, oh, I need a 6 mil piece of steel. Like it's just so convenient. I use this all the time. So this might be one of the more expensive things I just showed you, but also one of the most useful and good things to have to make good things, more for fabrication. You don't really need this one for if you just do like mechanics work on working on cars and stuff like that. But as soon as you start like fabricating stuff, you really need digital calipers. Don't go for the cheap stuff. There's only one brand, not sponsored anything, just Mituto. That's it. Period. I can talk long about this, but that's just simple. Last thing on my list is a good socket set, and I have one here. I just recently invested in a kit from Wacom. This one's, I think, 250, 300 euros, something like that. I'll put the part number and price down here. But like for the past 20 years, I think I've been working with a very cheap kit, which was from, I don't even know the brand. It was super cheap and it worked good, but the more expensive, and that's just fine to start with. It's just a cheap set. You don't have to spend a lot of money. So the quality, people think the quality is mostly in the ratchet itself, and I dare to say that, like the high quality stuff like this, the ratchets are good and they will last longer, especially if you start hitting it with a hammer, which you shouldn't do, but we all do, stuff like that. So, and this one's ergonomically a little bit nicer, stuff like that. But the actual quality difference, if you ask me, is mostly in the sockets themselves and the way they fit to the bolts and nut shoe are unscrewing. Since you can imagine, if this one's not, especially on the smaller size, the big sizes doesn't really matter, but on the smaller sizes, if the sockets don't fit very well, the chance of rounding over bolts is a lot higher. And especially in cars, you really don't want to be messing around with rounded bolts, and because that's going to, especially, it always happens on like a Sunday evening when all the stores are closed and you have to have your car ready on Monday to drive to your work or whatever. Then you always round over a bolt, and a 5-minute work becomes a 3-hour ordeal or whatever to get it fixed. But basic sets should be good ratchet and a nice set of sockets. The biggest one in this set goes up until 32. Never used it, way too big, but it just came with the set. But the important thing is it should also be smaller sizes. You really want that, because sometimes you want a big handle, a big wrench on a smaller size socket. So I would recommend the kit to start with. This is even an 8, but 8's really small, but a 10 would be best. So 10 up until 22, maybe 24 is more than enough. So spend some money on a kit. The good brand is important, but not per se. You can go with a entry level stuff. So spend 100 euros on this and you'll be happy. And you use this stuff a lot. So together with the ratcheting wrenches, you really, this is the most important when working on cars. So a hammer obviously, but also these wrenches and a good socket set. Those are the most important things when working on cars. For fabrication you hardly don't use it, but then again, if you work on cars and you do want to do a little bit more than just bolt on parts, do a little bit of fabrication, even though it's maybe like a small bracket that holds something or a wire or whatever, just invest some money. Socketset, hammers, just the basic stuff. Yeah, I think this covered most of the tools. Maybe no, there will be no future episode since. Oh yeah, one thing that's quite important. It sounds ridiculous maybe, but a broom. Well, is this a broom? I don't know. The small hand broom. I don't know. And one of these thin things just to. So having a clean workspace. I'm not that good in keeping my workspace clean. Hopefully, in a new workshop where I have the space to actually store stuff where it should go, I'll be a little bit better. But like being able to clean a little bit is very important. So at least a broom, maybe also a bigger one if you make a mess on the floor. Also, a very nice shop vac is nice. Not really necessary, but yeah, a broom is the important part. Keep your workplace clean. That's it, guys. Next episode will be about power tools. You see them already back here, a few, and I'll tell you a little bit about tools, power tools in the next episode. So, yeah, any questions? Shoot them in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to answer them. Since I spend a lot of money on crappy tools, also spend a lot of money on tools that are very expensive and very good that I hardly use. That's also a thing. So you can underspend and have crappy tools that break or make your life harder than instead of easier. But you can also spend a lot of money on stuff that you hardly use or have a one-time use, and it's hard to justify spending a lot of money on stuff like that. So yeah, please shoot me a comment, and if there's recurring questions, then I might make a future episode about it. So bye bye, see you next episode. Bye bye.